Welcome back to the Daily Journal's Prep Focus on Football. I'm your host, Tim Ahrens. With me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the authority on high school football in the state of Illinois, Steve Soucie. Well, Souce, we're in week 2 of the playoffs now. We start the season with 15 teams. We got whittled down to 9 teams going into the first week of the playoffs. Now we're down to 4, and it's kind of I don't think this might have been the 4 that we all picked.
Yeah, I was figuring we would get 4 to 5 teams out last week, and the list is a little bit different than I anticipated. A couple of upsets along the way, both to some favorites, and some teams picked up some upsets to get themselves advanced along as well. So kind of a mixed bag. Quite a few surprises around the state this week, and one of the first and foremost was obviously where we're at right now. Momence's win over Central was a surprise to a lot of people. Moments in Central have obviously locked horns a lot in the last few weeks of the seasons, and this time Moments finally turned the trick and knocked out Central, a team a lot of people thought was going to make a deep run in 2A.
Yeah, I think our 2 highest seeded teams in the playoffs lost.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's truly why you play the game.
Yeah, sometimes those seeds are really misleading, and in this case they certainly proved that to be the case.
So we started with 9, now we're down to 4, so that means, and you always make fun of my math, so that means 5 got eliminated, so that would be Central, Wilmington, Milford, Coal City, and Manteno.
Correct.
Well, okay, they have nothing to be ashamed of. Good seasons for all of them. Yeah, I think the goal of every team is to make the playoffs.
Right.
Some wish to go farther, but nothing to be ashamed of there, and good seasons for them. But we have to look at the 4 teams that are still left, and we'll start in Class 7A. Bradley Bourbonnais at 7-3 will host Edwardsville at 10-0. Edwardsville, the top seed in that quad, and Bradley's the number 5 seed. The game will be Saturday at 3 o'clock, and what do you know about Edwardsville?
Well, Edwardsville is a track team guised as a football squad. They're very, very fast and athletic. They put up huge numbers on offense. It makes you think you're playing a video game more than an actual real football game. Very talented team offensively. The one thing about it that Bradley has in their favor is Edwardsville is an awfully long ways away. For those of you that don't know, it's pretty close to St. Louis. They play in the Southwestern Conference down there. A couple of good teams in that league, but it's kind of hard to get a feel because they don't usually match up with a lot of the teams from around this area. So sometimes they come up here and they're world beaters, and sometimes they come off that bus a little bit flat. So we'll have to see which Edwardsville team shows up on Saturday afternoon for the Boilermakers. But it is a problematic matchup because Coach Mike Cole likes to talk about how they like to use their speed to try to overcome opponents. Edwardsville's got a little bit more of that at their disposal than the Boilermakers do. So it'll be a tough challenge for them. And in that light, I'm going to go with Edwardsville.
Well, Edwardsville got into this round by beating Andrew 59-28, so that shows you, A, they can score, but maybe they can't stop the other team from scoring. So
there are some issues with them defensively. That's not their strength. If this game turns into a shootout, I don't like Bradley's odds, but maybe they can force a couple of turnovers and keep this game close and see what happens.
I'm going to go with Edwardsville also.
All right.
So we're going to agree on this one. And do you hear me catching up to you? Because I am now just 5 games behind.
Yeah, you are 5 games behind, but that's still, I mean, you got to lean on that rear view mirror thing on cars that say, objects may be closer than they appear, because that's all you've really got right now going for you.
5 games and 4 weeks to do it. I can do this.
Okay.
I can do this. Okay. Let's move to Class 4A now. Peatone, the number 4 seed, with an 8-2 record, will travel across the state to Quincy to play Quincy Notre Dame. They are the top seed at 9-1, and the Raiders took care of Coal City to get to this game. They beat them 33-14, I believe. Peatone totally dismantled Pontiac 49-0 to get into this game. So what do we know about these guys?
Well, I mean, the I-8 is obviously getting real familiar with Quincy Notre Dame. Kind of a wild card when you look at them. They played a couple of teams from Missouri, and their conference that they play in is a little bit down this year, so it's not exactly clear how good they really are. Installed a new running back about midway through the season, and he's been really good for them. But other than that, if Peatone goes over there and plays well and is able to keep its focus, the Raiders aren't a team that is just going to roll right over Peatone. I think they have an opportunity here. But once again, that's a really long road trip to try to get yourself acclimated to. And Quincy Notre Dame isn't the easiest place to play for a visiting foe, albeit one from quite a good distance. So I'm going to take Quincy Notre Dame in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if I'm wrong on this one.
Well, I'm taking Quincy also, but here's what we know about Piatone, or here's what I know. You probably know a little more. They play great defense.
Yep.
They have great offensive line experience,
Yes.
and they have a good running game. That's a good recipe in the playoffs to win a game. So
Absolutely.
I would not be surprised if they do that either, but I got to take Quincy. That game, once again, is Saturday at 3 o'clock. Okay, we're going to move now to Class 3A. Bishop McNamara at 7-3 and the 8th seed will take on, they'll travel to Winnebago, which is the top seed team in that bracket. And Winnebago, the Indians, are 10-0. And that game will be Saturday at 1:30. What do you know about those Winnebago Indians?
Well, they're a pretty strong team, and I usually make it a rule at this time of the year to not pick against big Northern Conference teams unless I have a really good reason to do so. But I'm a little confused about this Winnebago team, to be honest with you. They went through the big Northern Conference without a loss and beat some good teams along the way, historically strong Stillman Valley, some other teams of that ilk. And when you move forward in this time of season, those are the kinds of wins that you look for to kind of gauge a team. But they had a lot of trouble last week with a 16 seed in their bracket in Peru St. Bede, which is a team that barely made the field. They were trailing at halftime. I'm not really sure how good this team really is. Maybe they just had a bad night and managed to overcome it. So I'm a little confused right now with what's going on with them. But one thing I do know for certain, they haven't seen a team at the caliber level that Bishop McNamara plays on a week-to-week basis. And that gives me a reason to believe that the Fighting Irish can go up to Winnebago and get that victory. I know this contradicts what I said on the television broadcast where I picked Winnebago to win the Class 3A title, but I'm reserving my right to change my mind, and that's what I'm doing here. That's
perfectly fine. You've had time to think about it.
Yes.
And that was a case where, it was a 2-hour decision, and,
Yep.
probably went with Winnebago. But I think the same thing. Bishop McNamara is going to win this game. I'm kind of convinced they're going to win, I don't want to say easily, but by a couple of touchdowns. You and I have both covered football a long time. When it comes to the playoffs, Bishop McNamara doesn't like to pass. They will just run, and they're successful at it. And they have a good offensive line, and I think they'll just run Winnebago into the ground.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, okay. Once again, that game is Saturday at 1:30 in Winnebago. Okay, let's move to Class 2A now, where Moments, where we're at, as you said earlier, they're 7-3 and the 7th seed, and they will go to Spring Valley to play Hall High School, which is also 7-3 and 6th seeded. Two upsets by seeds in this one. Central fell to Moments, and then Spring Valley Hall beat Bismarck Henning. So what do we know about Spring Valley?
Well, both teams obviously riding momentum, beating undefeated teams last week in their first round games. But Spring Valley Hall is not really the Spring Valley Hall team that you're maybe accustomed to from past years when they've had some success. It's a different kind of team they've got going on over there in what they call the snake pit. They're a little bit more spread. They throw the ball a little bit more than maybe they have in the past. Kind of a confusing team to figure out. They have had a lot of close games this year, have lost some games to some teams that kind of surprises you. They've just kind of got a mixed up resume, so they're really tough to get a read on. I think if Moments goes over there and displays the same kind of confidence that they did in that upset win over Central, and they do the things that they do well, I think that's going to put them in a pretty good position in this game. As long as they limit those turnovers, I'm going to take Moments in this one.
Okay, I have to gain ground, and I had a suspicion you were going to take Moments, so I'm taking Spring Valley Hall. I'm doing it for two reasons: to try and gain the game, and to how about some bulletin board material. I'm picking against, and I'm not very good picking.
How do you put a video on bulletin board though?
Well, you could put a TV on the bulletin board, and then.
I was just curious. I just wanted to know what the rationale was.
Well, you know. So they're the Red Devils.
Yes.
The Spring Valley Hall Red Devils, and they beat the Blue Devils.
Okay.
Bismarck Henning. So. Yeah.
So they won the Battle of the Devils. What does that have to do with this discussion?
It doesn't have anything to do with it, but I'm just picking them. So.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. Well, that's going to wrap up the four games. Why don't we bring on Moment's head football coach, Matt Fox, and let the authority talk to him for a little bit.
Well, Coach, obviously you pulled off a pretty big upset in the minds of many people, but I know that when we talked before that game came into play, you felt like your guys had a pretty good chance, and if they maintained the focus that they did, obviously they got that done for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was really proud of the way our seniors stepped up. You know, on Monday going into the meeting, after we'd lost to them on Friday, I just looked around the room, and the look in the eyes of our seniors and all of our kids just gave me a feeling that, you know what, if we have a good week of practice, you know, we could maybe pull this out. And you know, we did. We had a great week of practice. You know, our seniors stayed positive. Our seniors, you know, really did a great job of you know, setting the tempo of practice and setting the basically the intensity level of the game. And you know, we were fortunate enough to get a score there right before half and come away with a win.
I took only a half of your game in on Saturday, but the two things that kind of stood out to me almost immediately was your guys seemed focused but pretty loose, and it seemed pretty tense on the other sideline. It seemed like maybe you guys took a little bit of advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, our kids came in. They knew that, hey, we really got nothing to lose. We lost this team once already. You know, there wasn't any big surprises as far as what they were going to run, what we were going to run. A couple tweaks here and there, but we really kind of knew what they were going to do. They knew what we were going to do, and you know, so our kids just came in confident, knowing that, hey, you know, we just got done playing them. Felt like we could play with them. And like I said, we were fortunate to catch a couple breaks here and there, and like I said, I think the score right before half really kind of pushed us over the edge.
Well, due to some quirks in the bracketing, making yourself road warriors again this week, I have to make a pretty lengthy trip over to Spring Valley Hall for your second round game. What do you know about them, and what are your impressions of them from watching them on tape?
Well, I mean, they're obviously got a great program. They've got a great tradition there. They've won some state championships. You know, watching them on film, they're not your traditional Spring Valley Hall team. You know, they don't run the ball and pound it at you. They spread it out and throw it some. They've got a real athletic quarterback and 2 or 3 pretty athletic skill kids. Defensively, they're pretty physical and really try to stop the run quite a bit. So, you know, it's going to be a challenge. You know, it's not not an easy place to play. We're going to have to go on a long road trip, like you said. So it's going to be a challenge for our guys, a new environment to bounce back after last week. Make sure that we're focused. Make sure that we have the same intensity we had last week.
So far this week, have you found it to be a challenge to get your guys back on task after that huge win? I mean, I know that meant a lot to your guys, your coaching staff, everybody around here. Or are your guys just ready to go and go try to get another one?
Well, I mean, it is a challenge. I mean, I think if you try to ignore it, I think you're fooling yourself. So, you know, we talked about it as a coaching staff, and we talked about it with our kids right away on Monday. You know, congratulations on the win last week, but it's over. It's time to move on. You know, we can celebrate that win after the season. But for right now, we've got one team and one team only on our schedule, and that's Spring Valley Hall. So, you know, we did everything to tell our kids that this week that's all we're focusing on, and that's all we're going to worry about. And, you know, like I said, I've got confidence in our seniors that they're going to lead us and they're going to do right and set the right example.
Well, best of luck in that one, and keep them going.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. All right, are we going to do a Player of the Week? I don't remember last playoff season if we did. So, do you have a Player of the Week?
Might as well stay consistent. I'm going to go with Bradley Bourbonnais' Jared Ware this week. They went down to Pekin, had a tough time getting a lot of traction there, but every time the Boilermakers needed a big play, Jared Ware was there to deliver that for him, had a nice game, and then that's why I'm going to go with the junior this week, the junior running back, and hopefully that'll continue this weekend for him against Edwardsville.
That sounds good to me. All our 4 teams play on Saturday. Where are you going to be that day?
Well, on Saturday I'm going to be watching Bradley Bourbonnais and Edwardsville play each other, and then I'll probably find somewhere to go on Friday night, catch me another game. Doesn't involve any local teams, but that's only because I don't have that option.
You know, here we talk about Friday night lights and all that sort of thing, and when it comes playoff time, there's hardly any games on Friday night.
Yeah, it's incredible. It just seems like the only Friday night games that you get are in the really big classifications with the short travel distance is obviously not an option for Bradley this week. But yeah, the Friday night lights go away pretty quickly in the playoffs.
Saturday, it usually rains, or at least what my remembrance is. Yeah. But okay, is that gonna do it, you think?
I think so.
Okay, well, be sure to grab this week's edition of the Daily Journal on Thursday. That will have the prep focus on football, and we're going to have all the usual stuff, the staff picks, the notebook item from football writer Kyle Neighbors, and other stuff we'll have, I'm sure, and it'll be great. And we also have an Olivet men's basketball preview.
Basketball already.
It is basketball time,
Yeah.
I guess. Here we're actually in a basketball gym because it was, because it gets dark at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon now or something like that. So it's a crazy time change. I hate that. So that's another time though. That's for.
All right, old man rant. Time to wrap that one up.
We gotta stop the rant before I go. Okay, so for the authority here, Mr. Soucie, and for our videographer Nicole, I'm Tim Ahrens, and we will see you on the sidelines.